All right, welcome to March 2020. We're going to do some online learning. I know it says Unit 3 Political Beliefs and Behaviors, but remember that the AP system has changed this. This is now part of our Unit 4 and Unit 5. And I thought we'd start with some ideology. Let's see what people tend to think about the way we view our government. So these are some terms that you may or may not be familiar with. I know you normally think in terms of the Republicans and Democrats, but it's better if we start a little bit broader with this. We talk about radicals who want a new social system, rapid change. We're going to go ahead and make a lot of those changes now. Our liberal ideology tends to still want to do change, but they want to do an active government to do those changes. So the existing government, the existing system, looking for support for those welfare and civil rights issues. Our moderate tend to be more tolerant of other people's views. They don't tend to have an extreme view on either one of the sides. The conservatives tend to want a limited government role, again, still looking for the same government we currently have, but they are looking for what we call the traditional lifestyle. In other words, leaving things as it is. About the only real change for them is going to be the active role for our national security. And then our reactionary, that's going to be the ones who want to go back to the old social order, think the 1950s, 1940s, after the World War II. So that tends to be where we start. We start talking ideology. You may want to start looking in terms of where you think Republicans fit, where you think libertarians fit, where you think independents fit. But I'm going to remind you, none of us is only one piece. So you may have someone who wants a rapid new social system, but they still want to have that limited government role. And so one of the things I'm going to challenge you on is, as we're talking about these different ideologies, as we're talking about how the way people actually view our government and view society, I want you to look for those broader pictures, the things that may or may not actually match what you think they are supposed to. This is just a general idea about how people think about the well-being of the state, where they tend to see where the school should do, what the civil rights should look like, what property rights should look like. I'm not going to post this on Google Classroom. I am going to post the other one that I'm going to show you. But basically, if we're looking at property rights, they tend to be pretty conservative across the board here in the United States. It doesn't seem to matter whether it's liberals or radicals. The idea in the United States tends to be that it's ours, when you can fill in that blank how that fits. You do have issues with civil rights, and there again we have a wider variety there, but it's also still a matter of whether it's going to impact the other people or not. So obviously that's going to make a difference, and then obviously ethics and morals are in there as well. I'm hoping as we start having this conversation that you can kind of make some jokes about how we view things. So it's very easy for us to poke fun at either one. So our bleeding heart liberals or our conservatives are wound or screwed a little too tight. But the truth is, all of us have pieces of all of these things. And if we can broaden our view to one who has different perspectives on them, you're going to get a lot more out of what we're trying to discover about government. So one of my best examples, I went back to do the C-SPAN Teachers Conference the year after President Trump was elected. And it was very interesting being in Washington, D.C. They had no idea how he got elected. They couldn't put a finger on it. And in having those discussions, one of the things that happened was that they hadn't been asking questions from the people who were supporters. They had kind of been doing same old, same old. He didn't fit the mold. He didn't fit what they were expecting. And so instead of asking questions, they simply went with what they thought they knew. I'm going to challenge you this year, especially. We've got a whole brand new field of Democrats obviously running. We've seen some changes, some shift. I know some of you are happy about it, some of you are not. But I would argue the same thing's applying to the Democrats now. If you're not listening to why people are voting for Bernie, if you're not listening to why people were voting for Trump back in 2016, you're going to miss that the fact that these ideologies, even though we label them or we come up with them, that none of them are steadfast. None of them stand the same way. And I'd like you to kind of look at some of those different twists, if you will, on what we're talking about. This is the infographic that I'm going to be sharing with you. It goes along with a lot of the information from your textbook, and I'm going to recommend again, you definitely need to be reading the textbook. This is one of those units, especially for your term paper, as you start looking at the demographics you've been assigned. You want to know these. You want to have a really good idea for where they tend to fall. So let me see if I can walk you through this. This tends to be more of our left, if you will. It tends to be more of our Democrats and our liberals. This tends to be more of our Republicans and our conservatives. There's a lot of different names here. You're going to see progressive, you're going to see traditional. I'm reminding you again that not everyone feels the same way about every topic. So even though this is a great starting spot, please do not stop here. You'll see them talking about what the purpose of family is here. What the purpose of family is here. There are going to be some beliefs. What should education do here? What should education do here? How should we see the morals and values? How should we see the changes we want to have? They're going to be focusing on equality. This is going to be more focused on freedom. Again, you've got religion, rights, homeless society, the military. There are so many different pieces to this. I'm going to give you a very, very quick overview of this, but I'm encouraging you not only for your own personal view, please, 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 no one is one thing. No one group is one thing, no one demographic is one thing. You're not going to be able to find everybody on the same side. So please look at it from a very broad perspective. And then as you go to do your term paper, make sure that you are in fact looking at more options than just the ones I'm showing you here. Make sure you have some statistics to back it up. So we tend to see, notice I'm using some very wide generalistic things, that people that are on the liberal side, the Democrat side, tend to be people that have union and government jobs. People on the conservative side, the Republican side, tend to have middle and upper class jobs. Now, having said that, I'm going to remind you, we're here in Yucaipa. It's a small town. You have a ton of teachers, which is technically a union job, and yet you would have a large portion of our population that actually, even though they're in a union job, tend to actually be or consider themselves to be Republican or conservative. They don't fall into one side. That means because we're in this rural area, we tend to have a lot more variety of our people. So I want to point out right off the bat, we've already found one that you might have people agree with you. You might have people that don't agree with you. I want you looking at both pieces here. In our left, our conservatives, our Democrats tend to be the Northeast and the West. If you ever take a look at one of the many Electoral College maps that pop out, you'll see the Northeast, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York. They're going to tend to be the Democrat states, and then we get obviously California, Washington, Oregon, and then in the Midwest and the South, we tend to have a lot of our conservative Republican states. Again, we've seen some changes. That's still up for grabs, but those are some generalizations. So if you've got, say, Florida, though, you've got a swing state. So you're not going to be able to use this information because they've had some characteristics from both that have become part of that area. On the Democrat, on the liberal side of things, we tend to see European immigrants. I'm going to point out those are all going to be your Italian, your Irish, your Eastern European immigration system, anyone who's worried about civil rights for those groups, and a large portion of your African American population is going to be on the liberal or the Democrat side of things. You talk about original Anglo-Saxon background, please be aware. Obviously, as we've blended our people, or as we've blended our groups, that's going to be less obvious. That doesn't include our Hispanic population, which I will tell you, the left has been working very hard to pull them in with the African American on minority issues. Trump got a huge boost from a lot of our Hispanic population that were actually in favor of him making it harder for illegal immigration, mostly because their families had come over legally and put a lot of effort into it. This does not have anything in it with our Asian population. So if that was one of your demographics, have some fun with finding out the information on there. Again, these are generalizations, unless it is an immediate background. So someone who immediately came over from Eastern Europe, they're going to have a lot more difficulty putting us into these pieces, if you will. Religion, our Jewish population tends to be liberal and tends to be Democrat. I will also say, though, be careful here, if it is a conservative Jewish population. So if it's going to be one of the ones who are Orthodox, they're not going to tend to be in that same spot, especially on some of the moral or ethical issues. Same thing on the right-hand side, you'll notice Protestants got a star. That is what we call mainstream Protestant. But that's going to be your evangelicals. Our groups like our Episcopalian and our Methodists have actually been moving over to the left. And our Catholic population has been such a challenge. You're going to find statistics that'll put them on both sides, mostly because they don't stand in one spot or stand in the other. Our Catholic population has been squarely on the left, on the liberal side of things when it comes to immigration and equality and death penalty. But abortion has been an issue, and morals has been an issue, and homosexuality has been an issue. And so when we start looking at religion, I'm going to warn you now, that is one of the swing characteristics, one of the swing demographics. It's going to be a challenge to try to put that all into one spot and make it fit. You're going to be told in your book that there is a gender gap. Oh my gosh, we have differences based on our gender. More men who fall into the conservative pattern, unless they have a union job, unless they are Jewish. More women who fall into the Democrat side of things, unless they are part of an evangelical Christian organization. You see what I'm saying here? Each of these pieces, yes, we have percentages that tend to fit, but please, 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 especially as you're looking at your term paper, do not just stop where it says women vote this way or men vote this way. Make sure you get more than one of those pieces. I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to kind of take a little break, but I'm hoping you have a shot at this. This is two different takes on the exact same political cartoon. Please, when you're looking at this, the one on the top is the conservative view of things. Remember that we've got someone who's paying taxes, regular guy, has a job, and the immigrants are simply coming in and taking things for free. On the liberal side of things, you've got some rich dude who's making millions of dollars and not having to pay taxes, and you've got a regular guy who's having trouble making ends meet. I love the fact that they took the exact same cartoon and made it go both ways. So I'm challenging you. I don't care what your demographics shows you for your term paper. I don't care what, as you're reading the Janda book, please make sure that you're looking at things from both perspectives. That is the best way to make sure that you have the piece of the puzzle that everyone's going to make sure that they understand or that they're involved with. The West Wing show is a great opportunity. If you have Netflix, I encourage you to go ahead and watch it. I decided to show you a little tiny slip of this. It has two people, a Republican working in a Democratic White House and then the Democrat. And it's just an idea to see some of the different ideologies that are going to be present in a day-to-day interaction. Just for fun, thought I'd introduce it to you. Hope you enjoy what we got going on here.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm going up to Smith College tomorrow.
Why?
It's my alma mater.
Reunion?
No, the Women's Studies Department is having a panel on resurrecting the ERA.
Who else is on the panel?
Rebecca Walker, Gloria Steinem, Ann Coulter, Naomi Wolf.
You know, something like 40% of all women oppose the ERA, and in my entire life, I've never met one of them.
Ezzy Hayes, nice to meet you.
You're not.
Yes.
You're not.
Yes.
You're not. You're not one of those people.
Sam, if by those people you're referring to Episcopalians...
You're going back to Smith College, the cradle of feminism, to argue in opposition to the Equal Rights Amendment?
And get some decent pizza, yeah.
They're going to hate you.
Sam, I'm a straight Republican from North Carolina. You don't think they hated me the first time around?
Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. What's the joke? It's not a joke.
It's the Equal Rights Amendment.
When did that come back?
Read what these guys
Shall
have.
not be abridged or denied on account of sex. Very dangerous language. This must be stopped. What could possibly be your problem with the ERA?
It's redundant.
Why are we talking about the ERA? She's doing the thing. Yeah, but it's not back or anything. Certainly not if Phyllis Schlafly over here has her way.
Look,
It's redundant?
I'm a low-maintenance lady. I got the 14th Amendment. I'm fine.
How about...
The 14th Amendment, which says that a citizen of the United States is anyone that's born here, that's me, and that no citizen can be denied due process. I'm covered. Make a law for somebody else.
So if you caught that, and I'm hoping you did, they're now applying policy and our equal rights.
You know, we should make a joke about women, because there's no law against that or paying them less money than men.
Well, there is a law against that. It's the Pay Equity Act. It was passed in 1964 when women were making 59 cents to the dollar.
What are you making now?
79 cents.
So everything's fine.
No, there are still some problems, but I'm not worried because the federal government is coming to the rescue.
Look,
You think pay disparity is because some sexist in human resources hired two people for equal positions and paid the man more?
oftentimes...
And oftentimes women make less money over the course of their lifetime because they choose to.
Oh, good night, nurse. They don't choose to make less money. They're financially punished for having kids.
They made a choice to have kids.
Well, not necessarily if you guys have your way. But that's a different can of tuna.
Because I'm a Republican, have we met? I believe that every time the federal government hands down a new law, it leaves for the rest of us a little less freedom. So I say, let's just stick to the ones we absolutely need in order to have water come out of the faucet and our cars not stolen. That is my problem with passing a redundant law.
So did you catch it? We've been talking about equality versus freedom versus order. It's all there. Obviously, the parties change the way they view each one of those based on this certain policy they're looking at. But that's what I want you looking at in your term papers to make sure you can analyze them correctly based on the demographics you've been given and based on the party that you're putting them with for how they would view the politics. Make sure you get them right.
So, guys, when I was downstairs, I made a decision. I'm going to register with the Republican Party, and I'll tell you why if you're curious. It's because they're a freedom-loving people.
We also like beef.
You know, you insist government is depraved for not legislating against what we can see on the newsstands or what we can see in an art exhibit or what we can burn in protest or which sex we're allowed to have sex with or a woman's right to choose. But don't you dare try and regulate this deadly weapon I have concealed on me, for that would encroach against my freedom.
Yeah, and Democrats believe in free speech as long as it isn't prayer while you're standing in school. You believe in the Freedom of Information Act, except if you want to find out if your 14-year-old daughter's had an
We
abortion.
believe in the ERA.
Well, go get them.
How can you have an objection to
Because
something that
it's
says...
humiliating. A new amendment we vote on declaring that I am equal under the law to a man. I am mortified to discover there is reason to believe I wasn't before. I am a citizen of this country. I am not a special subset in need of your protection. I do not have to have my rights handed down to me by a bunch of old white men. The same Article 14 that protects you protects me, and I went to law school just to make sure.
So I hope you remember, talking about both sides really important. I love the fact that this show is over 30 years old, and yet all those arguments can still be applied to today. Make sure you got this. So I'm hoping that you've had a chance to take a look at this cartoon, that when you go back after this video and look at the diagram that I'm going to post, you have a chance to look at that as well. And again, I'm reminding you, you want to have statistics for your term paper. You want to make sure that they are matching up with some of the information we've shared here. If your stats don't match up, why don't you find out why? And keep looking at things from both sides. I hope you guys have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you again.